it was nice to have this range of, actors that have done many, many, many productions and have incorporated every type of prosthetic hair and makeup costume into other characters that they've done, and then having actors that were, very stripped down into what they needed to be and how they needed to look for their character and being their first time. So we definitely had the whole scale of every type of actor and every type of costume in the film.
She did a great job, and I will say also, yeah, Trish did a great job, but also the hair and makeup team in terms of like the hairstyles for all of that and the makeup for all of that. It was just really well done, really great group of people.
There's definitely key departments that I work really, really closely with, and that we have to share a lot of information so we can tell this complete story. And it all makes sense, and it's a nice flow together. And definitely hair and makeup are people I try and work with very early on. I am fortunate that I get much more prep time than they do, so by the time they come in, there are illustrations that I would have done because it's hard to illustrate without, the head and the full look. So I try and be very respectful and have as much dialogue as I can with them. And so with Nikki coming in, we knew she has the huge challenge of wigs.
Trish was such an integral part of the whole design for hair, and, having done one before, having done another Hunger Games, so she had that kind of intel, I suppose, with Frances and the way it was going to look. I really love working closely with costume designers because they usually start before hair and makeup. So they have a bit of a handle on, how characters are developing, and so, hopefully give hair and makeup a lot more kind of influence that way. And then obviously with the director conversations and collaborating with Sherry as well. It was a big part of it.
And Francis talked to us early on about the look of the film, and he wanted it to be really gritty and dark and dirty. And then there's just so many different types of characters on this film too, that we were doing period with a twist, and we were doing, people that have been in a truck in mud for, we'd be living in that world for a week and then switch over to like the academy and the lakeside. And so there were so many different avenues that we could really be creative on this film, and the Hob and the coal miners, and there were a lot of areas where we could push the envelope, and it was fun.
I can't say enough nice things and honest things and creative things about Yo, because he is very conscious of what other departments deal with, and he's very conscious about where he needs to include you in conversations about how he's going to light things. And we had a lot of conversations especially about the interior of the games, because it's such a big space, and seeing how it was going to be lit. And that also plays into a lot of, besides with the coloring and fabrication of the costumes and the textures of the costumes, it also depends on our aging and how we're going to age things and do patina finishes on things. And also when there is going to be slight blood on the clothing, so that it can, with the lighting, it does look like the proper color that it's supposed to be. We have parameters of what our blood color can be in PG-13 films, so we want to take that into consideration. But I do go to Yo often about showing him colors. I send him swatches, especially if it's something in a white I want to use. There was a fabric that I wanted to have for Dr. Gall's character, and I didn't know how badly it would moire on camera. So it was something like that. We actually did a camera test. I sent it over and had Yo test it, and he was like, yeah, it's a really cool fabric, but you absolutely can't use it.
Look at you. Your makeshift shirt and your too tight shoes, trying desperately to fit in, when I know the Snows don't have a pot to piss in.
Tom's very dark-haired, so we needed to make him lighter.
Tom's head is shaved from the very beginning. So his head is shaved before we start shooting, and his hair is bleached out. And then you have to put a wig on that because he has to wear the wig for all the academy stuff and the beginning part of the film. And it's only later in the film where he has his actually real hair and his shaved head. So Nikki had a lot of challenges to deal with. I mean, there's several wigs in the film, and it's nice when you can't tell that they're wigs, and that's a huge accomplishment,
That head shaving on camera. We made this partial bowl cap with punched hair inside that we shave on camera. It was a bit stressing, but it was also lovely to do, of course.
Trish Somerville was one of the first people I met of the whole cast and crew in LA. We did a fitting And from the jump, she was so invested in the visual storytelling, which I love about her. She's costume and design and everything, but she's a storyteller. That's first and foremost, that's what she's good at. And I love that, because what an actor wants to do is tell a story. And so when you've got a designer who really cares about what is the story we're telling here and how do we make that represented visually, that's exactly what Trish does. That first meeting, we tried on some of the costumes. We tried on the peacekeeper outfit, and we tried on the school uniform, the academy uniform. And I remember just seeing like the vast difference between the academy uniform, which is, you know, this bright rouge, they call it academy rouge, and it's also it's like kind of contemporary because she's bringing kilts into it, which is kind of a very contemporary, you know, unisex clothing thing, which I love, but then she's also made it kind of boxy and quite authoritarian and utilitarian, and she's kind of meshed these two worlds in this way that feels very unique and original, very dystopian.
And with the school uniforms, I really wanted them to be one uniform for everyone to wear. We didn't get the difference of you could pick a skirt or pants or shorts, whatever, a sweater. No, I wanted it to be everyone the same, because I feel the Capitol always lets you understand that you're one of a million. There's not really anything special about you, that you're just a sea of people.
And then we tried on the uniform for the peacekeepers in District 12, and it reminded me of like the stormtroopers. It reminded me of like a really oppressive force. I remember in that moment thinking, oh, she gets the story. And I was like halfway through the book at that point, and so I was there with Trish trying on these costumes, while also like the book was in my bag and I was halfway through it, and it was this surreal moment where I was like, oh, we're making that thing, that book that's in my bag, we're here making it right now. And that was a real kind of icebreaker moment for me.
And then in the end, he's in this Bordeaux overcoat, giving him the strong shoulder, and that's kind of where he has this transformation. We were calling it the new man look, because it is this transformation of everything he's been through, the people he's killed, the people he has seen killed, and, you know, and he's really grown in so many ways, good and bad.
We gave him like a 1940s style look, still incorporating some of the curl in his hair, but making him look a little more grown up, a little more polished.
And I think for that, it was just having him be this very assertive, serious, dressed man walking in to confront Highbottom about what he's been through. And I wanted to, in the books, it says he's in a white suit, but I wanted to keep it in the color palette of the school, because I didn't want him, I felt it would be too noticeable if he's walking through these corridors in white. So Francis and I had a conversation about that. If I could lean into the color palette of the school uniforms, but give him something, you know, different and more mature to wear there, so that he doesn't pop out and is not so noticeable, because he literally is trying to get in and murder Highbottom. There was a lot of conversation about Lucy Gray's rainbow dress. There's a lot of description in the book, and then there was the descriptions in the script, and for me, that's one of the things that I had to spend a lot of time in my head about, because I really wanted to be respectful to Suzanne and what she saw and wrote in her book.
I think Trish had a pretty impossible task with this movie, and she somehow did the greatest job one could ever do on a film. I mean, you know, Suzanne, we love Suzanne. She gives maybe 2 descriptions of what Lucy Gray wears for the entire book, if you're reading it, and it really is, she's wearing a dress with ruffles, and the ruffles are pink, yellow, and blue. That's all I can remember reading, and so when I got the part, I was really wondering how it was gonna work out, and it is beautiful. This is a hand-painted vest. You know, the detailing on the, there's so much detail that went into it.
The intricacy of the bodice with the snakes in the pattern of her dress, the fineness, the delicateness of her skirt, the colors in her skirt, the design of her skirt. It is an incredible piece of wardrobe that she designed.
Beyond this dress, there's so many incredible things that she wears, because it's this hand-me-down, turn-of-the-century clothing that she wears, and they went and thrifted this 100-year-old vest that I wear on stage at the Hob, and all the things I wear for my performances with the Covey, the skirts, the dresses. I wear even like a beautiful, like, crocheted bathing suit when we're at the lake scenes, and I mean, Trish just did such a beautiful job.
With Rachel's costumes, I really wanted it to have this feel of a world traveler, you know, because her character gets placed in her covey. They get placed in District 12. They're contained there, but she mentions in the story of how they travel, you know, and they're this musical group that brings light and joy to different districts, but they get contained in District 12. And so I wanted it to be this kind of, everything is slightly worn, there's a lot of handwork on them, a lot of embroidery, and I wanted to have this folksy kind of feel to it to show some heritage, because I think in District 12 and with the Lucy Gray character, there is this closeness about her lineage and her family and what it means to have a sense of community, and it's so completely different than what the capital is. So, well, you know, it was a lot of definitely a lot of aging and patining on her costumes, and we had an amazing team in Berlin that I'm really, really grateful for, that did just such beautiful jobs of dyeing and patining and so much handwork that you do see and don't see. And our cutter fitters were just really incredible, that if they had any extra time, you know, they would come back and say, oh, I can add a few more beads, or I can add a few more flowers, I'll hand stitch it. So I was really grateful to them. And it really shines in Lucy's clothing and in the covey of what you see. And I felt it just lent itself to that type of character, where it would be something that they're very prideful about. So yeah, her costumes were really fun to do.
Lucy, she has quite a few looks on this, weirdly enough. And we started with the games, so we had a lot of, you know, it was just her dirty and sweaty the whole time. And then, you know, once we moved on to the lake scenes and stuff like that, we did a little more natural look and less dirt and a youthful look. But we also got to do some really fun looks for the Hob. She had 2 different performance looks, and then the Reaping Day, too. Most of the people in District 12 were always really dirty and covered in coal, and so, except for on the Reaping Day, it was as if they cleaned themselves up. And for me, I looked at Lucy like that was almost her performance. She knew what she was doing. So I gave her more of a look that day.
I've broken free of my laboratory today to examine you, the leaders of the next generation.
The preparation time to get into the look of Dr. Gall is major, and it's taking a lot of times. And every department, we have 4 different departments. So we start with prosthetics, then she's going to makeup, then she's in hair, and then she's in costume. So all in all, we're speaking of a long preparation time before we go on set where we shoot, and then we have also to get Viola back.
So one of her contacts is an ice blue that I created with Jessica Nelson in Los Angeles, and Sergio, who is Viola's makeup artist, created the eye shape and the lip on her, and I think obviously that was amazing.
We needed her to look slightly older, so we added the grey to her hair and we gave her some 40s style shapes. And then there was an image of a woman with this amazing fro and beautiful colours and everything, and with some grey and, you know, a silver streak in her hair. And it just suits Viola so well. With the costumes and everything, it's such a great balance of this massive hair and then these fabulous costumes. And yeah, so that was really exciting. And also it was really difficult to source that hair as well, so that was a real challenge for my wig maker in London.
With Dr. Gall, one of the things Francis brought out to me early on was, he said she has this Willy Wonka essence to her. So for me, it was taking that into consideration, and also my wanting her to be, you know, a character in the film that is a little bit more fashion forward and advanced than, say, the rest of the people in the Capitol, just because of she's this mad scientist. And so for her character, it was really important to have color and a lot of texture and patterns, a lot of kind of very progressive textiles and fabrications that we used. And with her red lab coat, it was another thing where I wanted her to be a little bit off-putting. So, you know, with the ombre and dégradé that we did on the coat, it kind of leans itself into like blood that's draining. And then adding the red latex gloves just gives her another little level of being off-putting, because she does have this really, her character has this really jovial side to her and this childlike side. So it's this nice juxtaposition of this childlike, innocent quality to her, but then there's this really, really dark evil side to her. And so I wanted to translate that into a lot of the shapes and the silhouettes in her clothes and trying to make her look older. We wanted Viola to look older than what she is.
There is a lot going on character-wise, so I wouldn't call it only a character or aging prosthetic makeup. It's a character makeup. And we have covered her cheeks, we have covered her nose, we gave her a new nose, and she's having an aging on the frown line. And to make a nose in terms of character, I think every woman on this planet should get a new nose one day. I really think it's a major change, because the change we've done, it's a slight we made it a little bit more like an animal, so it is the tip of the nose is coming a little bit further down, and from the front you can't see it, it's really, you feel it. And it's to this icy, striking look of her, it's giving a lot of character. Combined with a contact lens, they are major different colors, so it's like a slight bluish, whitish, husky-like, vibrant color, and her eye, which is dark brown.
And then you do see her just kind of transform, and she gets this really mischievous little grin and kind of taps her hands together, and it was just instantly there was Dr. Gall. So that, I think, for myself, and I'm sure most costume designers, that's the biggest satisfaction you can get, is this, watching this transformation happen in the fitting, and watching the actors come to life and become that character. And when they're happy, it makes my life so much easier.
Towards the end of the shoot, somebody came up to me and said, Viola wants to speak to you. And I was like, uh-oh, I wonder if there's something wrong. And all she really wanted to know was, could she keep that wig? Of course we let her keep the wig. I love that she loved the wig enough to want to keep it.
You may begin.
For me, with what's in the book and then what's in the script with Highbottom being a morphling addict, I really wanted to lean into this look of an opium den. And so I wanted him to be in very kind of fancy, elaborate, but comfortable pajamas. So everything I did was very uniformed with him. I put him in these two-piece pajama sets with decorative silk frogs or metal frogs on them, and in brocades and in silk velvets, and always keeping him looking like he could kind of care less, even though he does really care about what's happening in the Capitol, and could be fired or murdered at any moment. But it was that ease in him of this kind of opium den feel. And then when he is at any kind of events or has to give speeches, I wanted him to be in kind of cardinal's robes. And it was like this mix between a cardinal's robe and a judge's robe. So having him be in that, and also having it be very, keeping his color palette only blacks and navies, and keeping it very textured so that there is sheen, and there's a little bit, you get a little bit of a quality to it instead of it just being matte black fabrics.
It's fitting that both your parents could be here for your big moment.
Peter came in and we discussed the different levels of his addiction looks. And Peter was really into the idea of just having kind of sunken in eyes, and we do a lot of blotchy redness on him. And as the games go on, he progressively gets worse, more sweaty instead of clammy, and by the last scene, he'll be much worse by then. But he was very involved.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, we're in the Hunger Games. It's fun to play dress up,
I'm Lucretius Lucky Flickerman, a man who needs no introduction. You'll know me as your favorite weatherman and amateur magician.
Trish Somerville, the costume designer, emailed me these kind of drawing photographs of what they were thinking for Lucky. And so that's the first time that I really saw what they were sort of imagining and thinking, and it was so helpful because it's just it's like directions, and in the beginning, after I had no idea anything, I couldn't picture anything. I had no visual reference, because Francis was saying it's going to be different than the other films, and it's a different look, and it takes place many years before. So I had imagined, I guess, things, but when I saw the outfits and hair, it just was helped. It was one more step in like removing excess, just focusing on who this was and what the world was.
You know, he's scripted as he's a weatherman, and he's getting this great opportunity to be kind of the talking head of the Hunger Games. And with him, I wanted to have a progression of how he builds with fame. And he's kind of, you know, he's insatiable about this attention. And so speaking with both Nikki and with Sherry, I also wanted to have a progression with his hair and with the makeup that he wears.
His hair is very structured, so we start off with him, you know, quite sort of normal 40s style, and then his hair grows throughout. So he becomes quite the character, you know, he sort of really evolves and into this kind of mad TV presenter.
It really is like a rising sun. So that was something that they presented, was like, your hair in the beginning is going to be lower and it's going to get higher and higher and higher, and your mustache is going to get bigger. So that, I loved it. I thought it was so funny.
He has two different mustaches because he starts off very drab with just like a plain pencil mustache, and then like the second one is a lot more like flamboyant with the curls and the which really doesn't make sense, because how would it grow like that in a couple of days? But we just kind of didn't care. Like, let people wonder, is that fake? Does he have like a wig? He's putting on different mustaches. So we just kind of went with it.
So yeah, his character was great to dress in, and Jason was so much fun in fittings, because he would come in with, you know, all these ideas about the weather, and then he's kind of he's a magician by desire, but he's a weatherman by trade. So he would come in with all these ideas of, you know, magic tricks that he could do, and how could we incorporate that in the costumes.
Miss Phibbs, if you're gonna vomit, please do it off camera.
I read that magicians, sometimes, you know, their pockets are bigger on the inside than they are on the outside, so they can hide more things. So all my jackets have these like huge hidden pockets and things, and I could keep all my props in them, and just little things like that she didn't have to do something like that, but that's a detail that really makes you feel like you can reach in your pockets and there's all these tricks in there and things. They're really in these pockets, and it's just like so helpful.
For Tigress, she, along with Dr. Gold, were the two characters that I wanted to be the most Capitol-like. So there's a designer that I love, the period designer Lily Ann, and she made beautiful women's suiting that would be very extreme shapes. So it was very classic 40s and 50s, but it was very exaggerated. Like, she did peplums, very narrow skirts, and severe shoulders. So that was a designer I leaned into quite a bit for a couple of Tigress's costumes. I wanted her to be the softness also, so that's why with her color palette, it's a lot of pinks and roses and purples and lavenders.
Hunter actually came in for the first time when I met her, and she had plucked her eyebrows into a very angular shape that she wanted to do for her character, and it actually really worked.
We bleached my eyebrows, and I feel like that sort of helps kind of, I don't know, like change my face a little bit as far as like how, I don't know, there's something kind of like slightly sickly about it that I think suggests that she might be malnourished to some degree, but then also is able to cover that up or work with it and still like have fun with her makeup in a way, and tie in the vivid like jewel tones that she's dressed in into her face, and still adorn herself in that way.
I just thought it all kind of went together. So I love when actors come in with ideas and you can build upon them.
There was one costume for her that are these really beautiful fuchsia palazzo pants and this really strong shoulder blouse with full chiffon sleeves, and it's in a hospital scene. And I kept teasing Francis because you don't really know when you're building the costumes what the setup is going to be like. You know what the scene is from the script, but you don't know how it's going to be shot so early on. And so when I saw how we were shooting it, I went to Francis and I said, doesn't Tigress just walk into this scene? Because I wanted to see, selfishly, I wanted to see her head to toe, you know? And he said, no, she's sitting. And I'm like, are you sure she's sitting? Maybe she walks into the hospital. she just came to life in everything that we put on her. So she was just a joy to dress, really a joy to dress. What I love about filmmaking is I love being part of a creative team. I love working with the production designer and the DP and the director and the props people and hair and makeup. I love that we all get together and are able to tell this story. And you know, shooting in Berlin was a really incredible experience, and being able to shoot in Poland was a really incredible experience. And you learn so many things each job that you do, and I met really incredible people along the way. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for that.